Pay attention, we're about to see the beginning of an altcoin rally. Today, we're going to talk about three very important things. First, why I think we're about to see an altcoin rally begin within the month of May, and we might be seeing the start of it as we speak. How exactly I'm planning on taking profits. And finally, the sector I'm focusing on the most right now. Nothing I say is financial advice. First, an update on Bitcoin. Many people are waiting for us to dip to the low 70s again. I do not think we're going to revisit that level. In fact, I think the 74K was the bottom for Bitcoin. I remember back in November of 2022 when Bitcoin hit its low of around 15K. Many influencers, and not only the trend following ones that will say anything to appeal to the majority opinion, but the serious ones with a lot of competence and integrity, thought that we would go down and hit this pre-COVID level of 10 to 11K. And you can't really blame them because that's what months of bearish price action does to you. Now, people have been conditioned to believe that we have to test some arbitrary 70s target in order for us to continue to pump. And I noticed that the more competent the average investor today is getting, we tend to overcomplicate things by a lot. In my experience, sticking with simple and solid indicators usually paints a more than good enough picture. Like for instance, the 50-week moving average, which every time we've had a test of this and managed to bounce, we've gotten at least a 70% rally this cycle. In some cases, even more. But a 70% rally from today would bring us up to around 130K Bitcoin before we would come down and test it again. And this looks like a pretty convincing bounce if you ask me. And here is something important. I do believe we've also seen the bottom for the sentiment this cycle. I can see it on my YouTube views and general engagement, and overall the fact that people are just bored. Crypto is not that much on people's mind right now as it was a couple of months ago. And during this time right here is where the majority of people left crypto for good. And the reason why this is important and why we need this low sentiment is in fact to create a big rally. We need to have the majority of people not being positioned in the market so that they are forced to panic buy back in. If the entire crypto population is ready with their bags filled and their price target already laid out, we won't have a rally that gets fueled by FOMO. This is fully player versus player, and you need to be on the right side. And that is what I think will be at play right now. So like I said, the views are down, and one of the main reasons for this is the lack of interest, which also is reflected through the Bitcoin dominance going up. Very few people that have a long-term perspective on Bitcoin, they don't need to really browse YouTube that much for information. Everyone knows what it is. Altcoins disproportionately are the main drivers of these views. It's not until we see Bitcoin dominance decline that we're going to see these views return. So Bitcoin dominance is approaching my target of 65%, which I predicted. Can it go higher than this? Of course, it was a prediction that I laid out a year ago, but I cannot visualize Bitcoin dominance climbing all the way up to the 70s because I do believe the Fed will have to step in before this happens, which will make the risk appetite return. Sooner or later, I think we're about to see a pretty substantial drop in Bitcoin dominance, which will trigger an altcoin rally. And the next rally here might be something akin to this, the rally we got in December. We could see this type of rally, then another chop, and then see the ultimate altcoin season towards the end of the year, where most people expect us to have a rally. A counter argument to this would be that I see a lot of people expecting us to have an altcoin season towards the end of the year. The market loves to lock out the most amount of people as possible, exactly the same way it did in 2023. I know so many people that were actually present in the 2020 to 2021 rally and thought to themselves that in 4 years' time, they will be back. And then they missed out on this entire rally and ended up buying way higher because of FOMO. But whether we get a December style pump for alts or we get a fully fledged altcoin season, my plan remains the same, which we'll talk about in just a bit. I want to dedicate the second part of this video to altcoins because I believe we have a very nice risk to reward setup with some of these alts. Before I talk about my plan and in which sector I'm looking at in particular, I want to point out something really important. It does seem like the majority of at least my viewers have taken my advice on lowering their averages. Like I said in my previous videos, it does not take much to lower your average to then double your overall return. For instance, going from a mere 5x to a 10x. And you can do this fairly easy. I'll make sure to include this doc in the description if you want to implement this to calculate your own averages. Down here, you can see that in this example, the investor bought Ondo at peak $2, lump sum bought the entire thing. This lump sum strategy rarely works out. In this other example, we also had someone experiencing FOMO. He bought the top, but the key difference here is that he DCA'd all the way down to the bottom. In return for his patience, he managed to make almost twice as much as this guy. And keep in mind, this was done with a much safer approach. Remember, as you probably experienced by now, the chance of you buying an altcoin at a perfect time so that it starts to rally tomorrow is extremely low. Lowering my averages is what I have been focusing on over the last couple of weeks. The best buys you make in the space and when it feels the most wrong. The more depressed you are buying something, the higher the chance that it is a good buy. So what specifically is my plan for the rally coming up? As you probably noticed, this is a trader cycle for altcoins. You have to be on your toes. The plan with what I'm buying right now is to rotate. Hear me out. I have safety nets accounting for 80 to 90% of my portfolio. But my overall goal for my portfolio is somewhere between 20 to 30x this cycle. I want to try and reach this goal in a way that hedges me with some fiat along the way. So my plan is to find good rotation alternatives. Remember, you need only one good rotation to change your life. For instance, a rotation can be from a big cap to big cap, which is the safest way of rotating. And this can still yield you amazing returns. Imagine a big cap play where you have a weighted average return of 7x, meaning that you DCA out of your big caps so that it would be like selling the entire thing with a 7x return and then rotate this into another play with the same returns. That's a 49x that you got from two big caps. Now, this is a dynamic process, of course. Let's say that you want to play it safe and take out 50% in fiat profit along the way when you DCA out of this play. That would still be a 25x from a quote-unquote safe play that you can afford to invest a lot of money into. So do not sleep on big caps. This is what I've been advocating for so long now. Buy big caps and rotate. You only need 2 of these plays to work out. You can join the Discord and see how we're preparing for this next move up and be a part of this rotation. The prices will double when we kick this off. Finally, and arguably the most important part of this video, pay attention to what pumps when we get a small rally from Bitcoin, which we've seen over the last couple of weeks. For those of you who are paying attention, you would have seen that meme coins were one of the sectors that have been pumping like crazy. Farcoin had a nice rally, Turbo had a nice rally, Popcat, Pengu, many of the virtuals AI meme coins. What does this tell you? It should be fairly obvious that meme coins are way oversold. It went through a FUD storm, which we've covered on this channel multiple times. And I have for so many weeks now tried to convince people to buy meme coins. And the main argument I keep on hearing is that meme coins ruin the cycle and they have no utility. You don't care about utility, you care about making money, so do everyone else. You're going to dump your utility project on the next person. So please, let's just acknowledge the fact everyone is here to make money. I've not been making altcoin videos for a while because generally people have no interest in them. But some of the opportunities that we see now just can't be ignored. I will be making a lot of altcoin videos moving forward, so make sure to subscribe with the notifications on to not miss those. Check out the Discord if you want to see my full portfolio and how I'm planning to rotate. Link in the pinned comments. You will get access to a bunch of courses that will help you get set up so that you're ready for the next rally. Take care and stay safe.